Breaking Bad is a show defined by consequences. Every action, every lie, every stray piece of dialogue in its 62-episode run is a meticulously placed domino, building toward an inevitable, tragic collapse. It is largely considered a closed loop, a perfect text, but if you dig through the digital graveyard of the late 2000s, you will find a fracture in that loop. 5 official, original minisodes, plus a dozen promotional web shorts, in-universe ARG campaigns, and forgotten DVD extras, over an episode's worth of runtime, produced by Vince Gilligan and the original crew, stranded outside the modern streaming ecosystem. Now, I won't pretend these are all hidden cinematic masterpieces. If you are looking for a dark secret that completely rewrites Walter White's psychology, you won't find it here. The truth is, a lot of these episodes lack the crushing, prestige TV depth of the main series. But that lack of depth is exactly what makes them a vital piece of television history. Because to understand why the darkest drama of the 21st century produced a series of bizarre, low-stakes web videos, we have to understand the era that created them. These tapes are a time capsule of an internet that no longer exists. And most importantly, they are the very last time we ever saw these characters before they were swallowed by the dark. Out of the 17 pieces of buried media in these archives, a majority are exactly what you'd expect from the early days of digital promotion: comedic sketches and DVD fluff. To summarize them chronologically would be a waste of your time. Instead, we are going to isolate the anomalies. If you strip away the filler, 3 specific recordings remain. 3 pieces of media that transcend the label of bonus content and possess direct, undeniable ties to the canonical timeline of the main show. Team Science, The Break-In, and the Wayfarer 515 campaign. We are going to dissect these 3 foundational tapes first, unearthing the psychological and narrative weight they secretly carry. Then, once the canon is established, we will open the vault and take a rapid-fire look at the bizarre, experimental remnants left behind in the rest of the collection. To understand the true value of these forgotten shorts, we have to talk about Jesse Pinkman. Throughout Breaking Bad, Jesse is the emotional collateral of Walter White's descent. He is fundamentally unequipped for the cartel underworld, constantly tortured by his own decaying morality. Which brings us to a bizarre animated segment titled Team Science. Presented as a creation of Jesse Pinkman Productions, this short is entirely separated from the grounded reality of the show. Instead, it is a literal cartoon. In it, Jesse imagines Walt as the ultimate superhero.
Dr. Chemistry.
Jesse himself is a hero named Rewind O, together with his group of friends, Badger, Skinny Pete, and Combo, alongside his late girlfriend Jane as Apology Girl. They form a superhero squad designed to defeat the evil Hector Salamanca. On the surface, it is just a funny, non-canonical parody, a joke about Jesse's well-documented artistic hobbies. But if you look closer, beneath the saturated colors and the comic book framing, Team Science is arguably the deepest, most heartbreaking look into Jesse's psychology in the entire franchise. Jesse Pinkman is a character who desperately needs the world to be black and white. His greatest flaw, and his saving grace, is his lingering, childlike naivety. He cannot handle the gray areas of the drug trade. He knows he manufactures poison, and he knows it destroys families. So, how does a traumatized kid rationalize his complicity in a murderous drug empire? He narrates it. Team Science isn't just a gag, it is a psychological coping mechanism. By casting Walt as a superhero, and himself as the loyal sidekick fighting a definitive villain, Jesse shrinks the unimaginable horrors of his daily life into digestible cartoons. He idolizes Walter because he is desperate for a paternal figure to tell him he is still one of the good guys. The tragedy of this animated short is that it shows us exactly how Jesse views himself, not as a hardened criminal, but as a lost artist, playing make-believe in a world that is actively destroying his soul.
Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on!
If Team Science is a window into Jesse's trauma, then our second tape, The Break-In, is a high-resolution X-ray of Walter White's ego. Pop culture remembers Walter White as a mythological figure, the mastermind who outsmarted Gus Fring and built a global empire. but the break-in forces us to remember what Walt actually was for a vast majority of the show's early run. A petty, deeply arrogant amateur.
Wait, you're doing this all for a vacuum
The
cleaner?
premise of this lost episode is agonizingly low stakes. Walt has hidden his illicit stash of cash inside a household vacuum cleaner. Skylar, completely unaware, sells it at a yard sale to an elderly woman. To retrieve his money, Walt doesn't devise a brilliant Heisenberg-level master plan. Instead, he hires Jesse's associate, Badger, to commit a sloppy, late-night burglary. What unfolds is a masterclass in pathetic criminality. But beneath the dark comedy of Badger, failing to break into a senior citizen's home under the cover of darkness, there's a sinister underlying theme that defines Walter White's entire character arc. His parasitic reliance on the vulnerable. Walt desperately demands to be the smartest man in the room. But to maintain that absolute illusion of control, he deliberately surrounds himself with people he views as intellectual inferiors. He doesn't hire a professional. He hires a gullible kid he can easily manipulate, belittle, and ultimately use as a human shield if things go wrong. This minisode strips away the "I am doing this for my family" facade that Walt hid behind for so long. There's no noble crusade here. It's just a desperate man sitting in a dark suburban driveway, orchestrating a felony against an old woman, and fuming because his teenage pawn isn't a master thief. The break-in proves that the cruelty of Heisenberg wasn't something Walt learned in the cartel underworld. It was always there, just waiting for an excuse to break out.
515 Albuquerque Center, roger, climb and maintain 13,000. Juliet Mike 21, Squawk 4, 201 ident.
If the break-in shows us Walter White's localized cruelty, the extra media surrounding the Wayfarer 515 disaster forces us to reckon with his macroscopic devastation. It is the ultimate butterfly effect.
A terrible disaster has befallen each and every one of us. 167 men, women, and yes, innocent children were lost on the day Wayfarer 515 fell from the sky.
While not a traditional narrative minisode, the expansive web campaign built around the mid-air collision of Wayfarer 515 and JM21 is a crucial piece of this lost media puzzle. The supplementary material, the mock news broadcast, and the in-universe fallout strips away our perspective of Walter White completely. It places us in the shoes of the innocent citizens of Albuquerque, looking up at a sky raining fire, completely unaware that a dying chemistry teacher is to blame. This is where the supplementary material of Breaking Bad crosses the line from dark comedy into psychological horror. These tapes don't focus on the cartel. They don't focus on the meth trade. They focus on the sheer, unfathomable scale of collateral damage. Walt's decision to let Jane die wasn't just a murder by inaction. It was the domino that brought down 2 commercial airliners. The Wayfarer web campaign is the show's loudest declaration that Walt's actions cannot be contained to the criminal underworld. He is a cancer, and like a cancer, the rot spreads outward, destroying healthy tissue, destroying innocent lives without discrimination. By focusing extra runtime on the aftermath of Wayfarer 515, the creators leave the audience with a horrifying realization. Walt spends the entire series claiming he does terrible things to protect his family. But this tragedy proves that his ego is a weapon of mass destruction. He didn't just break bad, he broke the world around him. Once you move past the heavy, canonical anchors of the collection, the remaining archive fragments into something much more experimental. A lot of these files are simply the writers blowing off steam, comedic sketches that belong nowhere near the main timeline. But hidden within that filler are distinct character studies that quietly recontextualize the people we thought we knew. Years before Better Call Saul was ever greenlit, the live Saul cam served as the definitive prologue to Jimmy McGill's corrupt evolution. Utilizing early internet technology and shameless marketing, we watched Saul establish his criminal lawyer persona in real time. It's a pure, unadulterated look at his survival tactics, proving that the writers always knew exactly how deep Saul's grift went, long before he ever crossed paths with Heisenberg. We also get a completely different look at the show's supposed moral compass in the minisode Wedding Day. Framed as a flashback to Hank and Marie's wedding, the tape features a staggering confession. Hank admits to Walt that he cheated on Marie shortly before the ceremony. It adds a dark, deeply flawed layer to his character, highlighting his toxic masculinity and establishing the complicated, secret-keeping dynamic between him and Walt years before the meth empire and that toxicity bled directly into his marriage. In the early seasons, Marie's kleptomania is often treated as a quirky, slightly annoying minor subplot, but the minisode Marie's confession strips away the comedic relief. Framed as a deeply personal video diary, we watch Marie attempt to rationalize her shoplifting. It elevates her compulsion from a weird habit to a genuine psychological cry for help, showcasing the profound isolation she felt within her own family. But perhaps the most tragic fragment in the entire archive is Twathammer. If Team Science showed us how Jesse copes with trauma, this tape shows us who he was before the trauma ever existed. It's a mockumentary exploring the origins of Jesse and Badger's struggling rock band. On the surface, it's hilarious, but contextually, it's devastating. This is our only real look at Jesse's life before Walter White infected it. He isn't a hardened criminal, he's just a goofy, stress-free kid with a camcorder trying to make music with his best friend. It is the purest distillation of his lost innocence.
That's the best you've ever played. Thank you.
So what are we actually left with when the tapes finally stop rolling? 17 isolated fragments, corrupted files buried under a decade of dead hyperlinks and forgotten DVD menus. These lost pieces of Breaking Bad media were never meant to rewrite the canon. They were a playground, a low-stakes sandbox for a group of brilliant writers experimenting in the Wild West of the early internet. But watching them now, with the full crushing weight of the series finale behind us, they serve a much darker, unintended purpose. They are the before picture. They are the very last time we get to see Walter White as a pathetic, bumbling amateur instead of a monster. The last time Jesse Pinkman was allowed to just be a kid with a camcorder. The final moment the creators could simply laugh with these characters before dragging them through absolute hell. They aren't hidden cinematic masterpieces. They are a tragedy caught on tape. The ghosts of Albuquerque, completely unaware that their world is about to catch fire. Sometimes, the best way to understand a perfect show is to examine its broken pieces, to look at the fragments from a different angle. If you appreciate deep dives and character studies that go beyond the surface, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. This was a Refractal production.